Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, 5 January 2021 at 6:30 p.m. And I'd like to call the Village of North Hudson regular Finance and Personnel Committee meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Trustees Nelson,
Here.
Pike,
Here.
President Wecken,
Here.
Trustee Zeiss, absent.
Absent. Okay, the item 2, minutes, regular Finance Personnel Committee meeting from 1 December 2020. Is there a motion to approve?
Second, I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any amendments or corrections to the meeting minutes? Hearing none. All in favor of the minutes as presented, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Item 3, claims, review and recommendations.
Stan, can I move to approve the December 2020 non-recurring claims of $40,927.17 and January 2021 non-recurring claims of $2,000.22 or $22.93.
Thank you, Kirk. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Any questions, comments, or corrections? Hearing none. Kirk?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And yes. Item 4, Animal Impounding Services Contract, Woodbury Animal Humane Society, discussion possible recommendations.
We don't have a statement.
No, this is our annual contract. We have the Humane Society for impounding animals.
So we're just, okay, I move to approve this is for 2021?
Yes,
Move to approve
just
the
a one.
2021 Animal Humane Society contract.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kirk. Any discussion?
Anything changed from what we had last year?
You can see in their cover letter, they did have a small 3% increase. That's usually what it is each year. They keep it that. We do, if the owner comes in and reclaims the animal, those fees do get charged back to that owner. So even the administrative fee, the animal warden fees, those are all charged back to the owner if they pick up the animal. Every once in a while we have an animal that doesn't get reclaimed and we don't know who to charge, of course, but that doesn't happen too often. So we do recoup quite a bit of these fees.
Thank you. Anything else? All in favor of renewing our contract with Animal or Impounding Services Woodbury, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item 5, 2021 staff and equipment service rates, discussion and possible recommendations.
Stan, I move to approve the service rates for 2021.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Kirk, thank you. Any comment, discussion?
Yeah. Let's go over what the 2021 rate, anything that has changed. Melissa, please.
So you can see in red on the handout that those are the items that were added by the Public Works Department. So this gets handed out to Public Works, the Treasurer, and the Police Department to update their numbers. And so they give that information back to me. So that is included in red on there. And so those are all new equipment that was added. So it's not that the rates changed, it's just new equipment that was added for that. And then Nathan updates the staff costs in the back based on pay increases, and that includes insurance rates, things like that.
Yep, and nothing's been really out of the ordinary. So all the the newer charts have right next to all the other ones.
I'm sorry?
I was just saying that all the new charges have been just a little bit more, but nothing crazy.
Right, and it doesn't look like Patrick increased any of the existing equipment. And I know, Patrick, you can probably comment on that, but what they usually look at is there a listing that the state puts out as far as the recommended charges for these types of equipment, and they look at that. So it's not like they're just kind of pulling the numbers from anywhere, right, Patrick?
No, it's the state has on their website. I go there and I pick out the equipment that we have and find it on their rate schedule and just go by that.
And if I could interject, a lot of times that item or that rate is used if we do go for reimbursement on an emergency declaration where a piece of equipment is used to remove trees or something from the roadway. So that's why it's important to have those listed.
Right. These are rates that are used if we need to get reimbursed for something, like if Public Works, if somebody got notice about not mowing their grass, say, and we were forced to go do it. These are the rates that then we go back to for like the tax roller that we would charge the person. So this isn't for work that we just go out and do. This is for work that we're kind of forced to do. Or if, like, Mark, like if you use the squatter for staff costs for like the bike run, things like that, that's where these come into play. It's for events like that too.
Thank you. Is any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the rates as proposed, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Item 6, purchase of new server hardware and software for the police department. Discussion, possible recommendations.
Stan, I move to authorize the purchase and installation of hardware and software and email migration by CIT Inc. to upgrade the police department server in an amount not to exceed $22,000 from the use of available funds account.
Thank you, Brian. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Kirk. Discussion.
What's the use of available funds account again? Chief,
Melissa.
Melissa?
That's our like unassigned fund.
Oh, that's the unassigned fund. Okay.
Yep. And that was something that was talked about in budget. That's a budgeted item for use of available funds for that.
And then
Okay,
Chief, what are we, what are you installing?
It says right here in front of us, Kirky.
I understand that, but I'm doing it for everyone else.
You're
If
doing
you're
what?
watching this,
Oh, well, it includes to procure, configure, install new ESXi host, create new Windows 2019 domain controller, virtual machine, mail migration, and Office 365 licensing.
thank you, Mark. I'm sorry, Brian.
Question,
What he said.
Chief, Melissa, why do we use CIT for IT for the police and someone else for the village? Just curious.
Well, Mark can probably answer why they use CIT. I mean, that's up to them who they use for their. I think a lot of police departments use CIT, if I'm correct, Mark.
Well, not necessarily. I think it's up to each. I know when I contacted and spoke with Hammond and with Baldwin, some of them are using their IT people from their high school that comes and helps out. We've utilized CIT for most of my tenure as chief, which is about 15 years. And so we've got a good working relationship with them. They're very professional. And I think one of the reasons that we don't use the same is so that there is some, I'm trying to think of the right word to say, but basically some separation between our server and information and some of the protected pieces versus the admin side. We've utilized CIT and they've been very helpful in setting up a lot of the CGIS compliant. And I think that the company or the vendor that the admin side uses has a lot of information on that as well. He did do a presentation one time in front of a group of chiefs, and I know that none of them had utilized that particular company because of there was one item that was somewhat concerning to us as far as a police department access goes. But beyond that, I think it was just because we had a relationship with them for such a long time and it's worked out well.
Okay, I think, well, we use separate servers, right? Between the village and the police department. So I wouldn't think that we'd have a cross contamination of information if we were using the same vendor any more than Microsoft is. And I just sometimes I just wonder why we haven't investigated CIT if their pricing has always been pretty good. I take it.
I think, Mark, you may know, but before my time, I think didn't at one time admin did use CIT? I don't remember. Did we use CIT
I
on
believe
the
that
side
there
before?
yeah, I think there was a time. I don't exactly recall that specifically, but the rates seem to be consistent with what I'm seeing from other places. I don't know what Aileron costs per hour for their.
Yeah, the rates for CIT are considerably higher than Aileron. Quite a bit different. And I think we
Okay.
get a lot of stuff as far as behind the scenes protection, viruses, things like that. I think we get a lot that maybe isn't included with CIT. There's things included with CIT rates that aren't included, in other ones. There's some differences between them both, but there is a considerable price difference. And I think that's why we don't use them any longer on this side. That was before me, but I know that's what I've heard from Gloria. So.
Okay, thank you. That's a discussion probably for another side.
Yep.
Has anybody ever suggested, like we do with the cars for the police department, and we do the same with public works vehicles? Should we be setting something aside year by year? Because really, coming from IT, we rotated hardware and software every 3 years, and this one's 5 years, it looks like.
Well, I know on our side, it's suggested this, they have a recommended server replacement timeline. I'm sure CIT recommend that to the police department as well. And it's longer than that. If I remember, it's like 7, 8 years or 7 years when you should start having it. So, I mean, it is on the radar, down the road, but it lasts longer than 3 years, a server.
Well, even if we put it out at 5 years.
I think our server replacement schedule that CIT has worked out with us, or we've talked about in the past, has been 5 years on hardware. Obviously, the software seems to be kind of ever rotating, and we have been looking a lot at the Microsoft options because they have introduced a lot of things kind of as the platform that you can buy in little smaller pieces for cheaper. So that's why we've kind of gone to the subscription type atmosphere versus owning the software or having it downloaded onto the server itself. And that's what hopefully this transition will take care of quite a bit of that.
It takes a little bit to get used to Office 365, but I think it's a great option. It's available wherever you are, phones and all of it. So yeah, I think it's a good move. I just am wondering if we shouldn't be setting money aside so that we're not getting, the one big chunk all the time. Melissa, I guess that's a question for you.
Yeah, and we can talk about that at a different time at budget meetings.
Okay, budget. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, probably not tonight for this, but we can definitely have it on the radar.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, this is a purchase, so Kirk,
Yes.
Bryan,
Yes.
and I'll also say yes. Thank you. And item number 7 is we are adjourned at 6:43 p.m. We'll see you in about 17 minutes. I would like to, it is 7:01 p.m. on Tuesday, 5 January, and I'd like to call the Village of North Hudson regular Board of Trustees meeting to order. I have a short invocation. Lord, forgive us for rejecting your principles and authority. Forgive it as a nation for straying from the very foundation upon which we were founded and established. We have been reckless with the freedom you have entrusted us. Please heal our nation and restore our land. Roll call, please.
Trustees Head,
Here.
Leaf,
Here.
Matz,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Pike,
Here.
President Wecken,
Here.
Trustee Zeiss, absent.
Okay, thank you. Yes. Okay, item 2 is review and approve minutes from the regular board meeting of 1 December.
Stan, can I move to approve the regular board meetings of December 1, 2020?
Thank you, Kirk. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bryan. Is there any comments, corrections, or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the minutes as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item 3, comments from the floor. This is the opportunity for residents to make the board aware of topics, issues, opportunities, either on or not on today's agenda. Is there any comments from the public? Hearing none. Item 4 is new business from the board or staff. And president's comments are first. And I said, I hope all had a wonderful holiday season. As we all know, 2020 was a very challenging year. And it is looking as 2021 is going to be an even more challenging year with the road project that we have going on Highway 35 that'll commence this summer, and the ongoing issues that we've been dealing with for the last 10, 11 months. So I just hope that everybody has their patience cinched up, and that they will, if they have questions and comments, our website does have information on it for the Highway 35 project. And as we get that from the state, we will keep that updated so you can get your questions answered there, or call us at the hall and we'll try to answer your questions. Again, it's as with snow plowing and every other thing, we're doing the best we can with what we have. So I hope that everyone will be I don't even know what to say. Happy with what we have going on. We are trying to do our best. And I'd like to thank our Public Works Department and our Police Department for both doing a fantastic job through the snow, the few snow events we've had, and for with the different issues we've had with public safety. So thank you. Melissa.
Yes, so Advanced Disposal picks up Christmas trees the first and second Mondays in January. They picked up trees yesterday on Monday, January 4th. It will also occur on Monday, January 11th. And you can refer to the village website for additional details on this. And then as of the 5 p.m. deadline today, one person has filed paperwork for village president, 6 for village trustee, there's 3 positions for that, and 1 for municipal judge. They will appear on the April 6, 2021 ballot. A spring primary may be needed for the state offices of State Superintendent of Public Instruction and Court of Appeals Judge District 3. This will be confirmed this week, as all the paperwork is confirmed on that, if we need to have it for sure. If it is needed, that will be held on February 16th, 2021. And then also Trustee Zeiss was unable to attend this evening. He did want to give an update on his Strive to Survive that the board had looked at last month. I did include it as an attachment in the packet information. It's not under a certain number. It's just kind of at the bottom of it if you want to look. But basically his update he had, as far as the steering committee he was looking at, for the government side, it'll be himself, Tim Zeiss. Jessica Lehman will be the contact person at the office here for sending out information. As far as the businesses he has involved is Village Liquor, Bible Baptist Church, and then he's waiting on a response from a third business. And in the community, it looks like he has Julian Hannock, and then a 2B rep, looks like co-chair of the Neighborhood Watch Program, and is considering on adding a third person. As far as his updates, Jessica had provided a list of all the registered businesses to Tim to contact. Tim is updating the contact information for each business. He hopes to have the initial contact made to all the businesses by the end of January. He pulled down all the DOT information from the website, and he'll share that with the businesses. And also we do have that link on our village website already to the Wisconsin 35 project. Has a link within there to the DOT website. So that's on there as well. He's anticipating a kickoff January steering committee meeting. The steering committee will define the remaining activities leading up to the start of construction. So once again, that review of that is out on the packet information on the website, what I read to you, so you can review that as well. But that is his update he wanted me to share with you, and that is all I have.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Okay, item 5, Plan Commission recommendations, chair update. Is Mike around or doesn't look like
Mike
it?
is not here, but Paul was going to do an update because he was present at that meeting.
I can certainly do that. There was 2 matters that the Plan Commission dealt with. The first one was an application for a lift down into the Riverway. That one was postponed due to some issues with their application. So the Plan Commission hopefully will review that next month. It's not on the board's agenda. The other item was a CSM for 4 lots. The Plan Commission, I would say, had an extensive discussion on that. Looked at a lot of the options, and it was their determination that it was in the best interests of the development and the adjoining land and also the village to recommend approval of that subdivision. And if you want some specifics, you have questions, I'll try to answer those. But
Okay, I believe
And-
we did. I guess we'd have to have, is there a motion to be presented for approval or denial or whatever of this before we can have discussion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kirk. Okay, discussion.
Stan, I got to sit in on that meeting because I'm within 200 yards from that development. And as it relates to subdivisions in our village code, 866-61, the Public Works Committee is supposed to see this plan before it goes to the Planning Commission. And I understand that on, basically on CSMs, that's not generally being followed, but in this particular case, I kind of wish it had been. And I'd like to make one addition to the conditions provided to the board tonight for approval of the Hartstone subdivision. If this condition cannot be met, I would recommend the Public Works Committee be given the opportunity to discuss this at their next meeting on the 19th or 2 weeks from now. If this condition meets with Hartstone approval, I recommend the board approve this with this added condition. Lot 4 would require a 32-foot easement on the east border. We would not be asking Hartstone to do anything with it, just to grant that easement, which in the future down the road might be vacated. But because there's a large chunk of property to the south of it, and the Public Works Committee didn't get a chance to talk about this, that's what we're asking for. Lot 4 would be requiring a 32-foot easement on the east border. It would mean, adjusting those front property lines a little bit to let that happen. But in general, these are 300-foot lots, so it's well within the size. Even with the 32-foot easement, it's well within the size that they need.
Just a quick comment on that. Minor subdivisions are a little different. The code is a little different on that. Kevin can probably, and Paul verify that, but minor subdivisions, they don't need to go to Public Works because they're a little different process, but I just wanted to mention that is why it didn't go there. So
Somebody needs to show me why 8661 isn't being followed on CSMs. I guess we can do that later, but I would still like to have that 32-foot easement on the east border of lot 4 added to the conditions.
Paul, Kevin, anything?
I guess I would just ask for some clarification regarding that easement. What would it be for, and who would it benefit, and who would it burden?
Well, for Public Works, when Public Works looks at the possibility of the 4.3 sitting next to this 3 point whatever, we think about a cul-de-sac possibility coming down the road, which we'd like to avoid. And as we did with the Abbey, the possibility of a private street that goes along the east border into the 4.3 and makes a right turn down to Galahad would be preferable to Public Works.
I guess, just to be clear, putting that in there would not alleviate the need for a cul-de-sac. And I think maybe Kevin can chime in on this a little bit. Unless you're planning on making that a public road through there, you're still going to need a cul-de-sac. And you're still going to need emergency equipment in there. And the subdivision requires that each lot border on a public street. So there's some technicalities that'll have to be worked through. And that was part of the discussion at the Plan Commission level, on which you heard obviously, but just to point that out. And maybe Kevin has some comments too.
Yeah, typically, with the CSMs, if they're not proposing like a street right away with public improvements, sanitary sewer, water main, storm sewer, typically those don't go to the Public Works. It's only when those improvements are proposed that they would go through that review process. That would, just like what Paul had said, the way the village code is now, any streets have to butt against a public right of way for access. So the land to the south, depending on how they divide it out, would need to have some type of a public road for access for those new lots.
And yet we have plenty of, right down the street from me, we have a private street running up into duplexes, fourplexes, going to the north and south, and they're not abutting, they're on, the front is on 4th Street, but all the way up, they're not on a public street, they're on a private street. So
Yeah.
we have instances where that's not true.
Yeah, and then some of those bigger, developments, it's on one lot, but then, they have private roads within it, but they have public access to a street right away for the development itself.
I don't know. I'm seeing the Abbey that we did with private road. You're saying because that's just one big lot, it doesn't make it that makes the difference there.
Correct. Yep.
And,
One big
and
parcel.
And you're saying we don't have any houses that are on private streets in North Hudson?
None that come to mind.
Off of 6th Street, there's several properties in the back there that I know we don't plow. It's between Michelson and Monroe.
Yeah, and
those have been there forever. I mean, that's well before I even moved up here. Those were there, I'm sure. So, I've been here since '84. So, I mean, it's not that it doesn't exist. It's just, I mean, I think the biggest question is that the cul-de-sacs have been a pain, for the village for quite some time, especially in the winter time, and I think that the thinking is that we just as soon not have any more cul-de-sacs, and it seemed to be a good idea that we could have a through street, but that's just comments I've heard.
So what are the codes that say what you were saying, Kevin?
It would be in the zoning.
Okay, well, again, since we didn't get a chance to look at this, and I also need to see where Melissa said CSMs don't need to go by Public Works. I'd like to see that as well. But we're not asking Hearthstone to do anything with that 32 feet, just grant the easement. I think if we find out that we would need a actual 60-foot wide public street, we would withdraw that condition.
So would the village then pay to construct that? I just want to make sure what we're asking here.
That's down the road. We're not,
Well, I think-
for the purpose of this, we're not asking Hartstone to do anything with that 32 feet.
But it'll be a public easement.
Just a public easement, correct?
Can I step in and say a few things regarding this? Is Damien Judkins from Hardstone.
Absolutely.
Just a few things, I mean, starting on one, I meet the requirements as far as was said before, as far as lot frontage, lot square footage, lot width, depth, all those kind of things. I understand you're not asking for me to do anything with it personally, but it would impact lot 4. It would impact the home to the east is roughly 5 feet off the property line between the two properties. So that gentleman would have a road right next to him, his house, private road, public road, whatever it may end up being. And also it's going to take up acreage in my property, and I'm assuming no one's looking to compensate for that aspect of it, whether it be the subdivision owner to the south and or the village buying that piece of land. Would also have to restart the CSM process because it would have to be an easement would have to be put on the current CSM, which would take up several months of time. It also could limit and create financial hardship on the current owners of the property. If she was not doing anything with her house currently, would this be a requirement of her to do? Because it would be splitting, putting a road through the back end of her property or through the middle or wherever it may go. And the property owner to the south may or may not submit something to you guys. That's no plans have been submitted to my knowledge so far. One option could be I could sell that family one of the lots for them to put their access through to do their subdivision. And to put an actual road through there is quite expensive. I don't have exact numbers, but I would guess it's $200 to $300 a foot at minimum just for the road work. If you're going to be putting a full 36-foot wide road up to village standards, which that doesn't include, impact or fees and or engineering from the village and or myself. So I'd just like to reiterate, I meet the requirements that is submitted in front of you for this CSM. I'd like to ask the board, I guess, to approve what's in front of them, since it doesn't meet their requirements as far as their subdivision requirements for a CSM.
It didn't go before Public Works. And again, if somebody's got a code for me to look up to say it didn't need to go for Public Works, I'd like to see it.
And just reiterating off of that, I submitted everything within the timelines. I don't know exactly how your guys' process works, but I mean, I would assume one of those copies should have went to the Public Works Department, director, however you guys handle that as far as the departments.
Yeah, the only reason I'm more aware of this one is because you're really close to my lot, and I was invited into that planning commission meeting.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that Hartstone did anything wrong.
Sure. And my surveyor is on also. I don't know if he wants to chime in on any of it, but he can. Or I think I saw one of the current owners is possibly on too, and they could chime in on it.
Yeah, Damien, my name's Jeremy Scow. I'm the land surveyor here, and this was the same item was brought up during the planning commission meeting, and I think I don't think it's prudent to request any sort of private access or easement through this property, given the fact that development of the property to the south hasn't been developed or has any inclination of being developed yet. I mean, for all we know, there could be a loop road put in there, and then that private. And I think the burden that you're putting on that lot 4 it's hard to justify even putting it on it, especially that property to the south there's no formal development plans or submittals or anything like that. Just whether it's just gossip or just through the grapevine, you heard all this information, but it doesn't seem prudent.
No, there are, Jeremy, there are no plans. I talked to the property owner. They don't have any current plans to develop.
Yeah, so
I'm looking at it down the road futuristically from a Public Works perspective.
Yeah, and I understand the access to it, but I mean, it has the access off of Galahad Road, and there could be just the town or the village could require that no cul-de-sac be put in and a loop road be put in through there. Or there's different avenues that we could, you know, discuss all night, and to help alleviate the need for this easement across Hudson's property.
Okay,
Anyone
so
else?
so basically,
would-
Hearthstone doesn't want to do this at this point in time, agree to this condition. So the only other thing left to me is to ask that it come before Public Works so we can actually talk about it and make a recommendation to the board.
And I guess I'd just say to that, I mean, everything was submitted the way it was supposed to. I can't speak to exactly you guys' process for that, but as Melissa said, you know, it doesn't follow the process that it's normally is, and it's going to set the entire project back because of whatever, there was a misunderstanding on the village side of it or whatever it may be. Is my only concern.
Stan, I have a question.
Kathy?
So Melissa, maybe somebody can explain his point there. Like, so you said this was a different process. Can somebody explain it to us, please?
So minor subdivisions have a different process than a major subdivision. And they require like a CSM. Major subdivisions have to do, you know, developers agreements, deal with streets and utilities. And, you know, it's a much longer process like Abbey Grove was, or not even Abbey Grove, but Artisan North and things like that. So minor subdivisions, 4 or less, which we've had many of them, but they've only been 2 lots. This one just has to be 4, but it does fit under a minor subdivision. If you look at 86-5 subdivision B, or sorry, Prin B, per that, they follow, minor subdivisions follow 86-61 Prin B, and most of the items can be waived unless the village engineer determines they are necessary. So park board doesn't review because there generally isn't land to dedicate a park. So they usually pay the fee in lieu of, and then which the village engineer calculates that fee, which he did for this. And then with minor subdivisions, they're also not constructing streets, water, sewer, etc. So that's why it doesn't go to Public Works. So when we get these in, there's a lot of communication with the engineer and things like that. And Kevin, I believe you and I talked about this, and that was the subdivision that I quoted is the one that minor subdivisions follow. They don't have all the requirements that a major subdivision does.
Yep.
Is that correct, Kevin?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Other questions or comments?
So just to clarify, if Bryan is doing a motion, just to make sure he amends it to include that so they can vote on that with that inclusion, and then, right, Bryan, because you did that motion, and just amend the conditions to include what you were saying or what you're wanting to do.
I'm amending it to say lot 4 would require 32-foot easement in the conditions on the east border. But I'm also trying to read 86-5 as fast as I can.
I know we have dead air here, but I'm allowing Bryan to
Yeah, and I don't know if
catch
Paul
up.
had any more comments. I don't know, Paul, if you.
The minor subdivisions refer exactly to what I'm talking about. 86-61B.
The 61B, it's just that little section. It says that they're just required to complete a CSM, that's an 86-5B.
Yeah, but
86,
that's
the
86
1B just includes that one little section. It doesn't include all the other stuff above or below it. That's just, they don't follow the same requirement.
86-1B is after 86A, which is what I'm referring to. So you're saying the two don't go together?
Yeah, it's kind of a lot to get into here, but if you look at 86-5 paren B, look at that first.
Yep, I'm looking at it.
It says, and it talks about minor subdivisions and that they have to file a CSM. Then they follow 86-61B. That little section, it just has a few numbers and it says most items can be, this is reviewed by the village engineer. So unless he's requiring more things, like the topographic survey map, things like that. But otherwise, they're not required to go to park board and
typically those come into play again if they want to build public improvements, streets, sewer, water, storm sewer, then definitely that goes in front of the Public Works Park Board. We do have another one that's coming down the pike here, the 3rd edition for the ridges. That one's definitely going to be coming in front of the Public Works. The park part of it, it's already been dedicated as part of the original plat. So typically, yeah, when those kinds of things come into play, then the Public Works gets involved.
The code, all right, looking at 86-5B, number 1, right at the end of it, it references 86-61. And when you highlight it in our book, it's referring to the preliminary meeting.
86-61B. Not all of 86-61, just 86-61B.
It's not letting me go to, all right, 86.
And point of clarification.
Yes.
I don't believe there's been a second to the amendment yet,
Nope.
and I don't know if you want to continue the conversation.
Yeah, there hasn't been a second.
All right, is there a second? I'll second it just so that we can continue the conversation.
I actually think that I did. Sorry, Stan. I thought Brian brought it up and I seconded it.
No, I
That's-
didn't hear you. I didn't hear
Yeah,
you.
I didn't hear it either.
That's what I had written down.
No, yeah, well, it's irrelevant, but
The original motion was made by Brian and seconded by Kirk, but then Brian is now making an amendment, which includes an additional. So just, I guess, Paul can add in more, but as the parliamentarian type person that I like to be, I'm just looking to add that to make sure everything's clear.
thank you,
Much
Chief.
appreciated, Chief. So I'll second it again if just to continue the conversation, because this is we're supposed to be planning down the road and stuff, and I think that's what this is involved.
Could I ask one question quick? Just out of curiosity, I mean, if this was just the current landowners, would you be asking them to do this? Giving up a piece of their property, put an easement on the back end against another parcel?
If the personal property owners were developing it,
Well, she's selling the property, so I mean, it is up for sale, so.
agreed.
Yes, we would. Anything that deals with our town and what even more that we have to put on our public works, we definitely need to look through it. So the answer would be yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, where we at, Brian?
I guess,
Can I ask a question? Is it allowed? Sherry Outstock from Medina Realty.
I'm not sure about the.
I'm the
this-
listing
this isn't
agent
a
for
public
the
meeting.
seller. Oh, okay, if I'm not allowed, that's fine.
No,
I just
I'm not
wanted
sure, and
clarification
I'm
on the-
asking
what
for
you-
my parliamentarians to chime in, or my lawyer.
What's that?
I'm just asking for my lawyer or the parliamentarians to chime in. I'm not aware, or I'm not sure of that, if you can or cannot.
Stan, you're not required to, you have the option to.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
I just wanted clarification as the listing agent for the seller. of what you were just saying, that she would need to put an easement in if she sold it? Is that what I'm understanding?
I don't know the answer to that question. That's,
Well, that was what Brian was trying to amend it to, correct?
Yeah, so basically it'd be a 32-foot easement on the eastern side of lot number 4. Is what he's asking for. Basically
Yes.
for a private road down the, once
The
that.
the
Go ahead.
possibility of it, and it, like I said, it might be something we vacate down the road, but to plan nothing for what's, what might happen in the future going to the south just doesn't make any sense to me.
Kevin, have you looked at the topography out there at all to see if this is even feasible?
I mean, there is quite a bit of grade relief on that particular lot. I mean, that was one of my concerns. Where it would tie into Summer Street. Once you start bringing impervious areas in that area, all the water is going to drain to the west where these buildings are going to be. Will have to be some kind of a stormwater management that would go along with that for the road itself if it was built. So yeah, there's some things out there that definitely would be of some concern.
Kevin, would it be feasible to put a road adequate enough to serve that potential subdivision to the south on 32 feet? I guess I'm not sure if it'd just be a one-way street or it'd be a two-way thing. I mean, obviously you're gonna grade out further than 32 feet on some sides. I was wondering if that's even a feasible option within 32 feet.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be pretty narrow, probably 20 foot minimum for two-way traffic. It could be turned into a one-way, but it's considered private. I don't know if there's necessarily anything in the code that spells out what the minimum design standards are. If it was a public right-of-way, well then, all those particular things, curb and gutter, 36 foot wide. But with this, it'd just be a private. So, but minimum wise, I think 20 feet of asphalt with some shoulders on the side. And it, just because of the topography, it would be somewhat challenging to get, depending on what you would do, whether with curb or ditches and things, could take a lot of that footprint up, that easement area.
Also, Kevin, go ahead.
Nope, go ahead, Jeremy.
I was gonna say also, Kevin, that south parcel, I don't know if you looked at that. Is there a possibility to develop that parcel to the south without putting a cul-de-sac in it?
I guess I haven't looked into, into those particular type of details.
Sure.
Could or could not. I mean, without doing some layouts.
Sure.
Yep.
And if I could just ask too, I mean, if it's going to be private and owned by the lot 4 owner, how would anybody else have access to a private road if it's on their property? And if they own that private road?
We have private roads. I think we have private roads that already have that happening in the village. To answer that,
You would have to have an easement agreement with the adjoining lot owner for that access. You're going to want to deal with who pays to construct, who maintains, who plows, all those sorts of things would have to be included in that agreement.
And I think all that would have to be addressed up front before the CSM would have to be recorded, all the maintenance and I guess everything that would involve the construction of a road. And what Stan had said earlier, that he's been around here since 1984, can only list a couple of them in the street. So this doesn't really seem like a desirable outcome or desirable option that's within the town's, the town's best interest, or the village's best interest, moving forward, just since not very many have been done since Dan's been around in 1984.
So Paul, 86.5B, minor subdivisions. Do you have the code?
I don't have it in front of me, no.
It's on the village website. I'm just wanting you to read number 1 and tell me that 86-61 doesn't apply, which is what Melissa's saying, and Kevin, I think. Because if it doesn't,
Let me look.
Brian, why don't you read what you're talking about so everyone else could see it?
under 86.5B, minor subdivisions, no division of land within the village or within its extraterritorial jurisdiction shall be permitted if it results in a minor subdivision unless a plat or certified survey map is in accordance with this chapter in Wisconsin Stats, Chapter 236. A certified survey map is submitted. The term certifying survey map shall be deemed substituted for the term plat, preliminary plat, or final plat throughout this chapter, and the provisions of 86-61B shall apply, except those requirements in section 86-61B, which the Plan Commission, acting on the advice of the engineer, may deem to be unnecessary. 86-61B4 shall always be required.
And B4 is the public hearing, which was done.
Right. So, Paul, if you're telling me that 86-61 A, the preliminary meeting stuff, does not fit a minor subdivision,
Yep, I'm getting it up here right now.
because that's where it says it's supposed to be going before Public Works and the Park Board, and then to the Planning Commission.
(86.6)
86-61, procedure for submitting subdivisions.
And it refers to 86-61B for minor
Yeah.
subdivisions. It doesn't talk about 86-61A.
86-61 is procedure for submitting subdivisions.
Right, but under A, preliminary meeting isn't required underneath the previous.
That's what I'm wanting him to say. Because when I read 86.5, I'm having trouble seeing that. And it's just not real clear to me. We do have a certified survey map, right?
Yeah.
Right, so under 86-5B, it says 86-61B shall apply, except those requirements which the Planning Commission acting on advice of the engineer may deem unnecessary. So it says 86-61B.
It's
Not
weird
A.
because when you highlight the link, it's pointing to A. But I see what you're saying. Paul?
Yeah, I am, my computer's struggling here with.
To me too, it feels like they have followed the rules that we've asked, but Brian, for your sake, it feels like they haven't, but yet it feels like they've followed everything we've asked them to do.
I agree. I don't think Hartstone did anything wrong.
I don't think any of them done anything wrong.
Right. And Kevin is following his normal procedure on a CSM.
Agreed. So with all that being said,
Well, that's,
and I understand you're going through what you're trying to walk through of the rules, but it still
That
feels
and-
like they've done everything proper. Unless I'm wrong, Brian.
no, you're not. And if Melissa's reading it, if the way Melissa's reading it is right, then I would have to withdraw that amendment.
Yep, we got Melissa, we got both of our lawyers too. I mean, please speak up if we're doing something wrong, or if they're doing something wrong. And like we originally said, we need to check for all of our steps, which is what Brian's doing.
That's what I'm trying to do. And I am looking at it from a public works chair position.
And PJ, please step in if you also hear or need to say anything, please.
Good.
I was looking at it. So 86.1B, if you go down to 3, it says there's a conditional approval. Does that apply here? Where it doesn't constitute approval of the final plat?
It's not a plat. It's a
No,
CSM.
okay.
The plat, bigger subdivisions, that's where that would come into play.
But not for the minor one.
Correct.
Thank you.
And that's where they, I mean, basically it's a certified survey, a CSM, certified survey map. And they've done all that.
They've done what they've been told to do. So I feel like we need to take some sort of action. I just don't know what it is. But I mean, again, they've done what they've been told to do. We should take some action.
I'm just waiting to see what Paul has to say as far as the rules, and in the discussion, I agree that they've done what they believe is required, and I don't know if we dropped the ball or that's what I kind of would like to hear is our attorney's interpretation, because I know the parties involved would like to get this rolling, and and it's not, we're trying not to hinder it. It's just we just need to follow our normal procedures or what has been written prior to any of us being here.
And I've been through this mess myself with my parents' house, and she's my neighbor, and I don't want to slow her down because I know that what that did to my own family once before. But I want to make sure we're doing it right.
Yeah, and Brian, we also dealt with this with a lot of the new stuff. I totally agree with you that we're just keep checking and just make sure what Paul has to say is what we need to be what's right.
Yeah, the only portion that applies is subsection B.
Okay. Then I withdraw my amendment.
Okay, so back to the original recommendation. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Let's see, this isn't, I guess all in favor of the application from Hartstone to create the 4-lot minor subdivision at 658 Galahad Road be approved, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. The motion is approved. Thank you, everyone, for your patience and for your participation. It's always a nice learning experience when we haven't run into stuff like this before. So thank you very much.
So just like to say thank you to everyone.
Thanks for your patience.
Have a good night.
Have a great night and hopefully a great 2021.
You as well.
Thank you. All right, item 6, Personnel and Finance Committee recommendations, claims approval requested.
Stan, can I,
Motion.
Stan, can I move to approve the December 2020 non-recurring claims of $40,927.17 and the January 2021 non-recurring claims of $2,022.93.
Thank you. Kirk, is there a second?
Second.
I think Brian was first, so thank you, Brian. Any comments or questions on the claims?
Melissa, what is the larger number on 220?
That is, just 1 second, bear with me. That is the Ruker-Melke study.
Oh, okay.
Most of it is that. There's other things, but most of it's that study.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call on a spending issue. Kirk?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Phil?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
And I'll say yes. Thank you very much. Item B, 2021 Animal Impounding Services Contract with Woodbury Animal Humane Society, approval requested. Is there a motion?
Stan, I move to approve the Animal Humane Society and Village of North Hudson contract for 2021.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kirk. Is there comments or questions? I guess I'd make a comment. I believe this is one of the only businesses around that takes animals like this. We've had a very long-running working relationship with them, and and the fees and stuff are in check. So it's I think it's good to be continued. So all in favor of continuing the contract, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item C, 2021 staff and equipment service rates, approval requested. Is there a motion?
Stan, I move to approve the service rates for 2021.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kirk. Is there any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the staff and equipment service rate approval, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Item D, purchase of new server hardware. Excuse me? I thought I heard somebody in the back.
You just had a little feedback. Go ahead.
Okay. Purchase of new server hardware and software for police department, approval requested.
Stan, I move to authorize the purchase and installation of hardware and software and email migration by CIT Inc. to upgrade the police department server in an amount not to exceed $22,000 from the use of available funds account.
Thank you, Brian. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kirk. I believe this is a budgeted item, correct? Okay. So is there any other comments or questions?
Chief, can you do a quick second and update what this actually means?
I can. Yeah, the issue statement I think was posted on the website as well, but just for the viewing public, basically we have a 5-year-old server that we need to upgrade based on some software needs, as well as just making sure that hardware gets updated and doesn't wear out. The scope of the work will include procuring, configuring, and installing a new ESXi host, creating new Windows 2019 domain control virtual machine, and mail migration with an Office 365 licensing. We're currently housing our email data storage on our server, and so we'll be taking that to the cloud. There are some things that we have to be careful of with other data as far as utilizing the cloud, but with email, we're good to go with the protections and the government server or government cloud license that we will get for that particular item. So just kind of trying to bring some things into alignment, update our hardware and software, and make sure that we have the support that we need from the companies that we purchase those subscriptions through to maintain and update things as needed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, this is a purchasing choice. So Kathy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
and I'll say yes. Thank you very much. Item 7, Public Works Committee recommendations. Chair update. Brian?
Stan, Public Works did meet. We have a couple things that we need approval on before I bring those up. For those of you asking me about our village garbage collection, and we've been saying, please put your cans up on the curb and out of the street. And a number of people have mentioned to me in the past week or two that the garbage company is taking them off the bank and putting them back in the street. I've asked Patrick to talk to Melissa, maybe have a little discussion with them about could they please put them back up on the curb when they take them off the curb. So we're working on that. And for all of those that are asking about the 35 project, as you heard what Melissa said tonight, there is a committee getting together to make sure that you know when the work is being done in front of your house and when you're going to be able to get in and out your driveway. So that information is coming and it will be up on the website eventually so you can actually follow the progress. Also, we have item B, Wisconsin Street North Land Acquisitions. Stan, we're moving to approve, asking you to approve the spending of $32,600, a potential of $32,600 for land acquisition in this project for 2022, which is the Wisconsin Street project.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Land acquisition, would you like to explain that, please?
Well, if you scroll down to the bottom of the core document here, there is there's your costs. The appraisals are what is an iffy thing. So, particular landowner along Wisconsin Street may ask for a full appraisal. If they do, it's going to be 1850 times the number that you're seeing there. If they don't, it will be considerably less, and it mentions that up further in the document. But so I didn't want to give you a low number and then have Melissa not budget properly. So we're giving the potentially high number.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? So, and that's your motion?
Yeah, I motioned and it was seconded.
I
To
didn't
approve
write that
30,
down.
to
Bill
approve
seconded.
32, to approve 32,600 for land acquisition for the Wisconsin Street project.
Okay, and who
Can
seconded?
I just, Phil did. Can I just clarify with Kevin real quick? This is a fee that wouldn't be paid until the project happens, correct? I mean, this isn't something paid out until then? I'm just
So-
thinking loan wise, I need to know when this was.
Yeah, so this part of it actually isn't grant eligible. This is going to be all 100% locally funded.
Right.
If you look at their timeline, they're actually going to, depending on if it gets approved tonight, but they're looking at starting that process soon. So these bills would be coming in this year that would have to be paid by the village.
Okay, okay,
But this is the worst case scenario based on the right-of-way plat that actually is going to be looked at the next item. 9 is only what's being proposed as part of that document. And again, like Brian was saying, that's if the owners don't agree to what Core would come up with a nominal fee. Realistically, I mean, I don't see maybe 1 or 2 potentially, but definitely not all of them.
And Kevin, the nominal fee per lot is what?
So that comes out of that sales study that they're going to proceed with, $2,000. So
Okay.
they're going to, look at some averages and come up with a nominal fee of, and these are smaller TLEs. So these are just temporary limited easements, or basically for grading. So they're on the magnitude probably under $1,000 per parcel. But if they do have the right, if they don't agree to it, to ask for the appraisal in addition to.
So it could be a lot less, Melissa, but I did not want you to get surprised.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Saying it's spending, I think you need to do
What?
it. It's
Excuse me?
spending.
I guess it is. So you can start then, Kirk.
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Kathy.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay, item C, I guess, Brian.
Stan, I move to approve the Village of North Hudson, Wisconsin Street North, 6th Street North to 3rd Street North, plat of right-of-way.
Second.
Thank you, Lori. Is there comments or questions, or what is this one about
Kevin?
for the general public?
Yes, so this is actually, the document that Court put together, so it outlines, there's 9 individual parcels that we're looking to get TLEs from, temporary limited easements. And on that second page on the right-hand side gives you an idea what kind of a square footage each parcel will have. Along with that, there's the relocation order. It's just basically a summary of, which project, what street, what length that goes along with this. This is something that would need to be approved by the village board. And then from there, it actually gets recorded at the Register of Deeds office. It's kind of standard DOT, just because of the grant funding that's involved. This is their normal process that we have to go through.
Thanks, Kevin. Any other questions or comments? Let's see. No, this one isn't spending, correct? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimous carry. Thank you. Okay, item 8, Public Safety Committee recommendations. And Tim's not here. Chief, do you have anything, or whoever was at the meeting?
Public safety met and we have nothing to, or did not meet. We have nothing to bring forward.
Thank you, Phil. Okay, item 9, Public Welfare Committee recommendations. Chair update. Kirk?
We did not meet.
Thank you. How about Park Board?
We did meet, but we also would like to take a second to thank a lot of people. Behind the North Hudson Town Hall is a new hockey arena. So we would like to thank the Hudson Hockey Association, Zappa Brothers, Public Works, and then just a lot of people for putting all that together. So right behind our town hall is a new hockey skate park. We're trying to flood the original place, but if you want to go play right now or skate, you're more than welcome to. So I really would like to say thank you to Patrick and a lot of other people for all the work they did.
Don't forget Pepperfest.
Oh, Pepperfest. Thank you, Patrick. It's really good because a lot of times we forget what we can do for free. Like this is just anyone in North Hudson or even Hudson proper can come skate there and have a great time. So it's awesome to have a new area. So behind our town hall, please come and skate.
Thank you, Kirk. And Patrick, I think you're still working on the other portion, but the weather isn't cooperating this week.
Yeah, it's coming along.
No, I saw you were out there this weekend volunteering your time to flood that, I believe.
Yeah.
We much appreciated. Yeah, it's I know the people need stuff to do now that we're having these issues. So
thank you, Patrick.
I'm thankful for that. And Kirk, just to for future reference, we are the village hall, not the town hall.
Thank you, Stan. And
we don't want to get confused with Hudson or the outside of the village or town of Hudson. Okay.
And I would like to say real quick too, that hockey rink is getting a ton of use, which is great to see. There has been so many people back there every day since it opened. It's great to see everybody enjoying it. So it's definitely getting a lot of use out there. That's for sure.
Yeah, and again, thank you for the Hudson Hockey Association for donating that. It's got a mat underneath so that we can flood that before we get enough ground frost in order to do it. That's the only reason that the other rink isn't open, is the ground didn't freeze real good, real early this year. So we're sorry for what might be perceived as dilly-dallying or whatever, but without frozen ground, all the water we pump out there goes right down into it. So thank you again for your patience. Okay, item 11, the board may convene into closed session pursuant to 19.85 parent 1 parent lowercase e to deliberate or negotiate the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. With request to Sewer and Water Committee update, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I move to go into closed session.
Thank you, Kathy. And
Second.
Thank you, Kirk. Do we need a roll call for this?
A normal vote's fine.
No, just a vote.
Just a vote. Okay, thank you. I was just making sure. All in favor going into closed session, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Chief, I guess is, I don't know, you got to be here for this?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you for your. All righty. We're back in open session from our closed session in the discussion of sewer and water. And we have agreed that our village administrator will proceed with contacting the city or our attorney to draft a letter to the city regarding the water agreement. Is that correct?
Is that in the form of a motion?
You said you didn't need a motion, did you?
Yeah, you do.
Okay, that'll be a motion then.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to have our administrator follow up with our attorney to a letter to the city, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you very much. And I will declare this meeting adjourned at 8:44. I'm getting tired of these long meetings. Good night, everyone. I hope you have a blessed night, and good luck to us all in 2021. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.